So what we're gonna do real quick here is I'm gonna have you be my assistant here, actually. So I'm gonna show you guys a couple of techniques here to just like help start to address some general dog reactivity and stuff. So what we're gonna be doing, hang on, fanny pack here, is we're going to be addressing some of the impulsive dog reactivity and talking about some of that here. So obviously a lot of the problems we have are restraint based, right? You could tell that kind of that dragging as he saw this dog or as she saw this dog is what's creating a lot of these problems, right? But in addition to that, dog reactivity a lot of times is an impulse control issue, right? So it's the dog not understanding how to control that impulse of wanting to get to the other dog, whether to play, whether to fight, whether because they're nervous or scared or whatever it may be. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be addressing the specific impulse of engaging in the other dog, right? So what we're going to do as soon as he gets me this slip lead is I'm going to have you walk kind of out closer to that fence, and you're going to start approaching, and what we're going to be looking for is the impulse of forward movement towards the dog, any forward movement at all. So beautiful, look at this. Now we're putting this on, obviously. So this collar here, I would definitely recommend having your dog on something else, whether it's a martingale or a slip lead or something.
When I walk her, I usually use a slip lead. The only thing is that I forgot it at the Airbnb where I was staying.
No problem.
So I usually just use that leash, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Just the other way around.
Oh yeah, looping it like with the handle. Good call. All right, I'll set this right there. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the pet corrector here. A lot of times with dog reactivity, I tend to find that a pet corrector in some cases can be very, very beneficial for addressing the initial act of reacting before I have the e-collar completely conditioned in. Now, a lot of this is because this is more of a psychological tool, right? So the e-collar is a physical thing that the dog is feeling. It's something that's physically motivating the dog, where reactivity, when you have a dog that's hyper fixated on something, is more of a psychological thing, right? They're more mentally engaged with what's going on over there. So what I want to do is I want to shift that attention away from this dog and onto me. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang out right here. I'm going to have you go out to about that fence, and then what you're going to do is you're going to turn, you're going to start walking back in this direction, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be watching this dog's pause, right? I'm not watching the attention, I'm not watching the ears or anything. I'm watching the pause and looking for that first sign of the impulse of moving towards this dog here, right? What I'm gonna do is the second that I see that impulse of taking one step in the direction of this dog, I'm gonna mark with no, and I'm gonna give a spray with the pet corrector here, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch it right at the very beginning of that sequence of escalation before she hits the point where she's completely exploding, right? Because again, it being an impulse control issue, that first impulse is still reacting. It's reacting to seeing this dog and feeling like it should be moving forward, right? What I want to ultimately see is that as this dog is approaching, if this dog feels like that pressure is too much, I want to see her actually move away, right? I see a lot of people with dog reactivity try to ask their dog to sit or down or things like that. And a lot of times I've seen that make it worse because, again, them not being able to kind of control that impulse and that pressure and feeling restrained to like, I have to hold this sit right now, can cause them to load more, right? All right, so yeah, I'll have you go ahead and walk over that way, and then you're just going to start approaching here. So loose on the leash, watching the pause. No. Then you can go ahead and go back that way again. All right, now what I do is I give him a second to decompress. You can see she's like, what the heck was that?
She's really scared of it. We have one at home.
Do you use it? Yeah, yeah. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna repeat this process and see if we get anything different. So you can start approaching again here. Again, watching the pause. I don't care about moving backwards or away from the trigger. The only thing that I care about is moving towards. No. Again, a lot less intense, but still a reaction nonetheless. I'll have you go back, and then we're going to do this again. Again, moving away, totally okay with that. Especially, this is a very skittish dog just in general. We saw that at the beginning with me. We saw this in some of the training that we were doing and stuff. So because of that, again, if I'm trying to say like sit right there, like we see this dog needs to be moving or else she feels, you know, she feels a lot less comfortable because of that. No. Again, forward motion still. I'm gonna have you go ahead and keep walking past a couple of times here.
Just from the noise of the spray, he wanted to go to the
Yeah, he's like, what the heck? Okay, and I'll have you just walk past a couple more times here. If you want, you can come even just a little bit closer.
So at any point would you give praise to her?
So we'll talk about that in a second here.
Okay, come on. Come on.
Again, I'm starting to get the checking in and stuff here. I want this to just look a little bit smoother here. Now with rewarding for dog reactivity, I have to make sure I've eliminated the reactivity first, right? Positive reinforcement doesn't just reinforce physical things the dogs are doing, it reinforces emotional states of mind also, right? So because of that, if I'm in a position where she's still thinking about reacting, right, I could possibly be reinforcing that state of mind a little bit as well here. So once I've eliminated the behavior or inhibited it, I absolutely could add reinforcement into it, but I would usually use like a food reward or something as opposed to praise. Praise is a little iffy depending on how you're using it, right, because it's not very clear. It's very difficult to attach it precisely to a behavior, right? So because of that, again, you could accidentally reinforce things that you don't even know that you're reinforcing. And again, all this nonsense right now, the reason why I'm using the pet corrector and I'm specifically addressing this reactive behavior is because we don't have any clear things established yet with this dog, right? So I'm going right in and I'm addressing that specific behavior that I care about and ignoring everything else because I don't care about leash pulling right now. I don't care about that recall stuff that I was doing right now. I don't care about sit right now. I just care that this dog is not reacting to other dogs.
So once you've addressed the reacting, then that's when you would be like, okay, don't be pulling or like something.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of got to pick and choose your battles initially, you know what I mean? Great, so I'm going to have you go ahead and bring me some of those treats here.
I got some pepperoni in the front.
Oh yeah?
She'll eat anything. Food, she's crazy about.
Thank you. All right, so next what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you keep walking past, but this time for every pass that this dog does not react, I'm gonna go ahead and reinforce, and I'm just gonna use a yes marker for that. And I tend to want some degree of stability before I go to reinforce, right? I don't want to, when she's all willy-nilly like that. Yes. Hey. Hey.
She's like, I'm nervous. I eat when I'm nervous.
Which also is very normal, right, throughout this process. If they don't take food, I'm not going to try to force her to. I'll keep offering it, right? But if she doesn't want it, she doesn't want it.
So if you're out
Yes.
with your dog,
Yep.
you bring that spray?
If I'm dealing with dog reactivity, yes, right? And some dogs you could use an e-collar for this all the same, right? The problem is, so a lot of times we have two different types of dogs, right? So we have essentially mentally dominant dogs and physically dominant dogs. And essentially a mentally dominant dog would be a dog that hyper-fixates on things, right? So we get a lot of dogs that you see, you can't break that fixation, right? You can do whatever you want to them and it just doesn't happen. The physically dominant dogs are the ones that typically you could kind of hit over the head with a 2x4 and they just don't care, right? So what happens happens is a lot of times when we have a physically dominant dog, you have to do something a little bit more psychological to them in order to kind of break that fixation, where on the contrary, you could do something physical to interrupt them pretty quickly, right? So because the pet corrector is more of a mental tool, you could break that fixation a lot easier, right? So that's why I tend to go with this first, because I see most dogs be a lot more affected by this than the e-collar for stuff like that. And you can see now with these pass-bys, she's starting to stabilize a little bit more. I'll try to reward one more time here.
Would you be willing to do an example of that in a social at all, or is this strictly leash today?
Of what?
The mental dominant.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just going in hard.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And we'll probably see, I would assume this dog, when we go to socialize, will be a lot more interesting to watch than this one, because we know this one is fairly friendly, right? This one, we were dealing with more problems of how to socialize, not so much like how to like get better with socialization, you know what I mean? So yeah, we'll definitely get into that. All right, we're good. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, I'll be